He left me chasing power until his powerful boss taught me what real love is. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. The office was buzzing with the low hum of printers and hurried footsteps when Ava looked up from her monitor, rubbing her tired eyes. Another 12-hour day. Another presentation she'd built for someone else to take credit for. Her ex, Daniel, used to say that power was everything. Status, position, control. And when he walked out of her life for a richer opportunity, those words burned like acid in her memory. So Ava made herself a promise that night. She would never be powerless again. She poured every ounce of herself into climbing the ladder at Straton Industries, a Fortune 500 company run by a man everyone feared, Ethan Cole, the youngest CEO in the firm's history. Rumor said he fired people just for being 5 minutes late. No one had ever seen him smile. Yet for Ava, he was the ultimate symbol of success. That morning, she was determined to prove her worth. Her shoes clicked across the marble floor as she entered the conference room with a stack of reports balanced on one arm. She'd spent 3 nights perfecting them, skipping dinners, ignoring her mother's calls. Pretending exhaustion was a badge of honor. When Ethan finally entered, the room went still. He was tall, sharply dressed, every movement controlled. His voice was calm, steady, and commanding as he spoke about leadership and accountability. But when his gaze swept over the table, it landed on Ava long enough for her pulse to quicken. She didn't know it then, but that fleeting glance would change everything. After the meeting, she hurried to the elevator, clutching her notes. "Miss Parker." His voice stopped her mid-step. She turned. "Yes, sir?" Ethan's eyes flicked to her files. "Your analysis on the market trends, did you run those projections yourself?" Her throat tightened. "Yes, sir. I stayed late to refine the data models." For a moment, he just studied her. Then, unexpectedly, he said, "Good work." 2 words. Simple. But for Ava, they hit harder than any compliment she'd ever received. Still, she couldn't shake the question echoing in her mind as the elevator doors closed. Why would someone like him notice someone like her? That night, she sat in her tiny apartment eating instant noodles, scrolling through photos of Daniel's new life in Chicago. Expensive suits, a new girlfriend, a promotion. Every image reminded her of what she'd lost. But then she remembered Ethan's calm, deliberate tone and those 2 words of acknowledgement. It wasn't affection she wanted. She told herself it was validation, power. Yet deep down, a quieter voice whispered that maybe she wanted something else entirely. The next morning, as she arrived at the office before sunrise, she found the CEO himself in the break room, sleeves rolled up, making coffee. For a man who lived in a world of luxury, the sight was disarming. "Early start?" he asked without looking up. "Always," Ava replied, trying to sound confident. He handed her a cup. "Power isn't about how many hours you work, Miss Parker. It's about knowing what truly matters." She blinked, unsure how to respond. That sentence would stay with her long after he walked away, like a seed quietly taking root. Because she had no idea, yet Ethan Cole wasn't just her boss. He was about to teach her the hardest lesson of all, that power without love means nothing. The next few days passed by in a blur for Ava. She threw herself into her work even more, determined to prove to herself that she belonged in this high-powered world. Every time she walked through the office, she felt the weight of Ethan's words from their brief interaction. "Power isn't about how many hours you work, Miss Parker. It's about knowing what truly matters." Those words echoed in her mind constantly, leaving her wondering if there was more to success than just the endless grind. As she sat at her desk one afternoon, staring at the spreadsheet in front of her, she heard the familiar sound of the elevator doors opening. She glanced up, almost instinctively, and there he was again, Ethan Cole. He didn't see her at first, but when his eyes met hers, something shifted. He gave her a small nod of acknowledgement. Ava's heart skipped a beat. Was he acknowledging her for more than just her work? Was it something else? As the days went on, she found herself looking for those moments, those subtle interactions where their paths crossed. They were always brief, always professional, but there was something about the way he looked at her, something that made her feel like she was more than just another employee. One morning, as she walked into the break room, she found him there again, standing by the coffee machine. She hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. "Good morning, Mr. Cole," she said, her voice steady, despite the butterflies in her stomach. He glanced over at her, his expression neutral. "Morning, Miss Parker. How's the project coming along?" Ava took a deep breath, trying to keep her composure. "It's going well. I've made some good progress. I'm hoping to present it to the team by next week." Ethan nodded, then surprised her by asking, "Do you enjoy it? The work you do here?" The question caught her off guard. She hesitated, unsure of how to respond. I do. I mean, I'm committed to it. It's just—" She paused, realizing she was about to speak more than she had planned. "It's just that sometimes it feels like I'm working all the time, but I'm still not where I want to be." Ethan's gaze softened for a moment, and for the first time, Ava saw something beyond the professional mask he wore. "I get that," he said quietly. "But the work will always be there. And you have to ask yourself, what's the point if you're losing yourself in the process?" Ava stared at him, unsure of what to say. There it was again, his ability to break through her defenses, to make her question everything she thought she knew. "I guess I'm still figuring that out," she finally admitted. Ethan didn't reply right away. Instead, he studied her for a moment, as if weighing something in his mind. Then, he surprised her once more. "You know, I started out much like you," he said. "I worked long hours, always pushing for more, never stopping to look around. But eventually, I realized that success without balance isn't worth it. I lost something important along the way." Ava looked at him, intrigued. "What did you lose?" He hesitated, his eyes flicking to the window as if remembering something painful. "Time. Time with people who mattered. And in the end, I was left with nothing but my achievements. That's when I realized that true power isn't just about what you can achieve. It's about who you become in the process." Ava felt a strange knot in her stomach. For the first time, she saw Ethan as more than just a CEO. He was a man who had sacrificed something important for his success, and maybe that was what made him so different from everyone else. He wasn't just focused on the power. He understood the cost. "Thanks for sharing that," Ava said softly. "I think I needed to hear it." Ethan gave her a brief smile, a real one this time, before turning his attention back to his coffee. "Anytime." As Ava left the break room, her mind raced. Was Ethan really trying to help her? Or was he just another person in this high-stakes world trying to manipulate her into playing a game she didn't want to be part of? She couldn't deny the attraction she felt toward him, but there was something deeper going on here. He wasn't like the other powerful men she had worked with. He wasn't just a walking success story. He had depth. He had heart. And that made Ava question everything she thought she knew about what success really was. That night, after a long day, she sat alone in her apartment, the city lights twinkling through the window. She couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Ethan. She thought about what he had said, the idea that power wasn't just about working hard, that it was about balance. She wondered if she had been chasing the wrong thing all along. Was it too late for her to change? Was it possible to find success without losing herself in the process? As she sat there, lost in her thoughts, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. "I've been thinking about our conversation. Let's meet tomorrow to talk more. I think there's something important you need to hear." Ava's heart skipped. What was he really trying to say? And why did she suddenly feel like she was about to learn something that would change everything? The next day, Ava arrived at the office early, her heart beating faster than usual. She couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. Ethan had asked to meet her for a one-on-one conversation, something rare for him. She had spent the night replaying their conversation in her mind, trying to make sense of everything he had said. As she walked through the sleek glass doors of Straton Industries, she felt an odd mix of excitement and uncertainty. Ethan's words still echoed in her mind. True power isn't just about what you can achieve. It's about who you become in the process. She had always thought that achieving more, working harder, was the key to success. But now, she wasn't so sure. Was it possible that she had been chasing the wrong things all this time? As the elevator doors opened to Ethan's office floor, Ava took a deep breath and walked down the hallway. The lights in the office were dim, casting a calming glow on the modern, minimalist decor. When she reached his office, she paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts before knocking. "Come in," came Ethan's voice from inside. Ava stepped in, and the first thing she noticed was the way he looked at her. There was no cold professionalism, no distant CEO mask. Instead, his expression was soft, almost vulnerable. It took her off guard. Ethan motioned for her to sit across from him. "Thank you for meeting with me, Ava," he said, his tone genuine. "I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation. You have potential. You've been working hard, and that's something I admire. But I can see you're struggling with balancing your ambition and your own happiness." Ava frowned slightly, unsure how to respond. She had spent years focusing on her career, pushing aside everything else. Now, hearing someone, especially Ethan, acknowledge her struggle felt different. "I don't know what you're talking about," Ava said, trying to brush it off. "I'm just doing my job." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his gaze intense. "I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're working hard, but you're also running yourself into the ground. You've been so focused on proving yourself, you've forgotten what you actually want." Ava felt a twinge of discomfort. She wasn't used to hearing someone speak so plainly about her. She'd always been the one to keep things in control, to keep her emotions in check. But now, sitting across from Ethan, it felt like her defenses were slowly crumbling. "I'm not sure what you're suggesting," she said, her voice quieter now. Ethan smiled, but it wasn't the cold, distant smile she had grown accustomed to seeing in the office. It was softer, more understanding. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you that you need to find a balance. You need to find what truly matters to you. And sometimes, Ava, that's not just work. It's about the people around you, the connections you make, the things that give you joy outside of your career." The words hung in the air between them. Ava stared at him, her mind racing. Could it really be that simple? Could she just stop, step back, and find a different path? "I've been where you are," Ethan continued, his voice low, as if speaking from experience. "I've spent years building this company, pushing people away in the process. I've sacrificed relationships, moments, and even my own peace of mind for success. And now I'm realizing that all of that power, all of that success, it doesn't mean a thing if you don't have anyone to share it with, or if you don't have your own happiness." Ava swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling deep inside her. She had always believed that success came first, no matter the cost. But now, sitting in front of this man, this CEO, who had everything, she couldn't help but wonder if he was right. Maybe there was more to life than just climbing the corporate ladder. Maybe she had been missing something all along. Ethan studied her for a moment, his expression softening. "I can help you, Ava," he said, breaking the silence. "I want to help you find that balance. You're too talented to burn yourself out. You deserve more than just working for success. You deserve happiness, peace, and yes, love. It's not something you need to sacrifice to be successful. In fact, it's what makes everything else worthwhile." Ava didn't know what to say. She had never heard anyone talk like this before, especially not someone as successful as Ethan. She had always thought that her worth was tied to her career, her achievements. But now, she wasn't so sure. Thank you, she finally whispered. Ethan nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. You don't have to thank me. I'm just saying what I wish someone had told me years ago. Success is important, but love, relationships, and balance are just as important. Ava looked down at her hands, trying to process everything he had said. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of clarity. Maybe, just maybe, it was time for her to stop chasing power and start chasing something else, something deeper. I think I understand, she said slowly. Ethan's eyes softened. Good. Now, go out there and start finding what really matters to you. I'll be here if you need guidance along the way. As Ava left his office, a sense of hope began to fill her chest. Maybe this was the start of something new. Maybe it was time for her to redefine success, to find a life that included both power and love. The next few days were a whirlwind for Ava. She couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Ethan. His words had lingered in her mind, pushing her to reconsider everything she had been striving for. Success had always been the end goal. But now, she wasn't so sure. Was it really worth it if she had to sacrifice her peace of mind, her happiness, and the possibility of meaningful relationships? The pressure of her job, the deadlines, the endless tasks, everything started to feel different. It felt empty. Ava found herself pulling away from her usual routine, no longer willing to chase after every task just to prove her worth. She had always believed that the more she worked, the more she would be recognized. But now she was beginning to question if that was the right path. The shift was subtle at first. Small decisions that she wouldn't have made before. She started leaving work on time, something that felt strange at first, as if she was slacking off. But over the next few days, she realized she was actually feeling better. She took walks in the park during lunch instead of working through it. She called her mom more often, actually listening to her stories instead of just nodding while her mind raced with work worries. It was freeing, but also terrifying. Was she giving up on her dreams by slowing down? She had never allowed herself the luxury of questioning her ambition. But now, sitting in the park one afternoon with a cup of coffee, she found herself smiling at the small things: a bird hopping from branch to branch, the laughter of a child running past. It felt like life was unfolding in a way she had never allowed it to before. That evening, after work, she found herself at a small art gallery that had opened downtown. It was one of the things she had always wanted to do but never had the time for. As she walked through the exhibit, she was struck by the colors, the textures, and the raw emotions of the pieces. The paintings seemed to speak to her in a way nothing else had before. It was a quiet reminder of her forgotten passion art. Her heart felt a stir she hadn't experienced in years. She used to sketch when she was younger, filling sketchbooks with drawings of people and places, dreams and ideas. But as life took over, she had buried that part of herself, thinking it was just a hobby, not something that could be part of her professional life. Yet, in that gallery, surrounded by works that spoke to her, she felt something awaken within her. She realized she didn't want to live a life just chasing power and success. She wanted to live a life that included the things that made her feel alive: art, connection, and love. Ava knew she needed a change, but she wasn't sure where to begin. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about Ethan's words again. It's about who you become in the process. Was she becoming someone she didn't even recognize? Someone obsessed with work and power, losing sight of the person she wanted to be? She had always been driven, focused, and determined. But now, she wondered if she had been focusing on the wrong things. The next morning, as she walked into the office, she noticed the difference in how she felt. She wasn't dragging herself in, feeling like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. Instead, she walked in with a lighter step, ready to face the day with a new perspective. Ethan was already in the conference room, looking over reports. When he saw her, he stood up and gave her a small smile. "Good morning, Ava. How's everything?" Ava hesitated for a moment, then smiled back, the kind of smile that reached her eyes. "Good, actually. Better than before." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Better than before?" She nodded, taking a seat. I've been thinking a lot about what you said. I've realized that I've been chasing after something without really knowing what I want. I'm starting to figure it out, though. Ethan didn't say anything at first, just looked at her with an understanding that made her feel seen. I'm glad to hear that, he said quietly. It's not easy, but finding balance is worth it. Ava met his gaze and, for the first time, felt like she was truly speaking to him, not just as her boss, but as someone who understood what it meant to be caught between success and personal fulfillment. I think I'm ready to find that balance, she said softly. To start living for more than just the next big achievement. Ethan nodded, a quiet approval in his eyes. You're on the right path. As Ava left the conference room, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time in years, she felt like she was living for herself, not just for the success she thought she had to achieve. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy finding balance, pursuing her passion, and redefining success, but it was a journey she was finally ready to take. She was no longer just chasing power. She was ready to find something far more meaningful herself. The days that followed were a revelation for Ava. She found herself diving deeper into her work, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't about trying to outdo everyone around her, or striving for perfection just to be recognized. Instead, she focused on doing her best, but also giving herself permission to step back and enjoy the small moments. At night, she would pick up her sketchbook again, sketching the world around her simple things at first. A cup of coffee, the reflection of the city lights in her apartment window, a few doodles that made her smile. It wasn't much, but it felt like rediscovering a part of herself that had been buried for years. She found joy in it again, in the quiet rhythm of creating, in the way the pen moved across the paper. One afternoon, after a particularly long meeting, she found herself walking through the park near her office. It was a crisp autumn day, and the leaves were falling, creating a beautiful scene. She paused, taking a deep breath of the cool air, and then she heard a voice behind her. Ava, there you are. She turned to see Ethan approaching, his usual calm expression on his face. But there was something different about him today. He smiled, a bit warmer than usual. I was hoping to catch you before you left, he said. Ava raised an eyebrow, surprised. Catch me? For what? Ethan chuckled softly. I've been thinking about your sketches. I saw them in your office the other day, and I think you've got real talent. Ava blinked in surprise, not expecting him to notice something so personal. You saw my sketches? She asked, feeling her face flush. I didn't think anyone would pay attention to them. Ethan smiled again, this time a bit more playfully. I pay attention to everything, especially when it involves someone as talented as you. Ava felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. Thank you, she said quietly, still not used to receiving compliments, especially not from someone like Ethan. He paused for a moment, as if choosing his next words carefully. I was wondering if you'd like to collaborate on something. I've been planning a new project, something related to art and design. It's still in the early stages, but I think your creativity could bring something special to it. Ava felt a surge of excitement, mixed with hesitation. You want me to work with you? On a project? Ethan nodded. Yes. I think it would be a good opportunity for you to explore your passion outside of the corporate world. You've been so focused on climbing the ladder, but I want you to know that you have more to offer than just business. Ava was taken aback. Ethan had always been the CEO, the figure of authority, the man who had built Straton Industries from the ground up. She never imagined he would offer her something so personal, so outside of the box they were both used to. I don't know what to say, Ava admitted, her mind racing. She had always been afraid to step away from what she knew, afraid that pursuing her passion for art would somehow make her less successful in the eyes of others. But Ethan's words made her question everything. Was this the chance she had been waiting for? The chance to merge her two worlds, the world of business and the world of art? You don't have to say anything right now, Ethan said, sensing her hesitation. Just think about it. I know it's a big step, but sometimes the biggest rewards come from taking risks. Ava stood there for a moment, looking at Ethan. There was sincerity in his eyes, something real and unguarded that she hadn't seen before. She had always seen him as the powerful CEO, the man who commanded respect. But in that moment, he seemed more like someone who cared, someone who understood the struggle between ambition and passion. "Okay," she said finally, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I'll think about it." Ethan gave her a nod. "Good. No pressure. Just wanted to put the idea out there." As Ava walked away, her heart felt lighter. She was still unsure of what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. Maybe it wasn't just about power or success. Maybe it was about finding the courage to be who she really was and letting the rest follow. Over the next few days, Ava found herself thinking about Ethan's offer more and more. She had always dreamed of combining her love for art with her work and business, but she had never allowed herself to believe it was possible. It had always felt like a distant dream, something for other people, not someone like her. But now, with Ethan's encouragement, it felt like a possibility, like something she could actually make happen. It wasn't just about the project itself. It was about taking a risk, stepping into the unknown, and embracing a part of herself she had buried for so long. And that thought alone made Ava realize that maybe, just maybe, she was finally starting to see the bigger picture one, where success wasn't just about the next promotion or paycheck, but about finding fulfillment in the things that truly mattered. Over the next week, Ava couldn't shake the idea of Ethan's offer. She found herself dreaming of a future where her passion for art wasn't just a hobby, but a real part of her career. The thought both excited and terrified her. She had always played it safe, buried her dreams under the weight of deadlines and expectations. But now, with Ethan's encouragement, she saw a chance to step out of her comfort zone, to explore something she had long neglected. It was a late Thursday afternoon when she made the decision. She sat at her desk, staring at the file in front of her, but her thoughts kept drifting back to that conversation with Ethan. Finally, she pushed the file aside, grabbed her coat, and walked to his office. When she arrived, Ethan was standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline, his posture as calm and composed as ever. He turned as she entered, his eyes lighting up in recognition. "Ava, I'm glad you stopped by," he said, his voice warm. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her decision. "I've been thinking a lot about your offer," she said, her voice steady, but with a hint of nervousness. Ethan raised an eyebrow, sensing the gravity of the moment. "And?" Ava smiled, a sense of clarity settling over her. "I'm in. I want to work on the project. I think it's time I take a risk and explore something I've always wanted to do." Ethan's face softened with approval. "I'm glad to hear that. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to grow, not just in your career, but in ways you haven't imagined yet." Ava nodded, feeling the excitement building inside her. This was at the beginning of something new. She had taken the leap. As they discussed the details of the project, Ava felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't just working for a paycheck or climbing the corporate ladder anymore. She was working for something that spoke to her soul, something that combined her business acumen with her creative passion. The project would focus on creating a new initiative for the company, blending art, design, and innovation. Ethan was right. It was a risk, but it was also the perfect chance for Ava to bring her ideas to life. As the weeks went on, Ava found herself more energized than she had been in a long time. She wasn't just putting in hours for the sake of it, she was actively shaping something that mattered to her. It wasn't always easy. The project was challenging, and there were moments when she doubted herself, when she questioned whether she was truly capable of balancing her creative side with her business side. But every time she felt overwhelmed, she thought back to Ethan's words. True power isn't just about what you can achieve. It's about who you become in the process. And with every step forward, she felt herself becoming someone more authentic, more confident in her ability to follow her passions while still navigating the business world. One evening, after a particularly long day at the office, Ava found herself standing in front of the window in her apartment, looking out at the city. The skyline was beautiful, but it felt different now. She had always admired the view, but now she saw it through a new lens. She wasn't just a cog in the machine anymore. She was part of something bigger. She was part of her own story, one where success wasn't just about power, but about pursuing the things that truly mattered to her. As she sipped her tea, she realized how far she had come. The journey wasn't over, but she was no longer afraid of the unknown. She knew that the path ahead would have its challenges, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face them. She had found a balance between her ambition and her heart, between the power she had once chased and the love she had always craved. The next day, she met with Ethan to present the progress they had made on the project. As she laid out her ideas, she felt a quiet sense of pride. She wasn't just presenting a report. She was presenting her vision, something that came from within. Ethan listened intently, his focus unwavering. When she finished, he looked at her with a smile that made her heart skip a beat. "You've done something incredible here, Ava," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Ava felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan. I couldn't have done it without your encouragement." Ethan's expression softened, his gaze lingering on her for a moment, longer than usual. "You're the one who did the work, Ava. I just helped you realize your potential." Ava felt something shift between them. It wasn't just about work anymore. There was something unspoken, something deeper, but she didn't rush to name it. Not yet. For the first time in her life, she was allowing herself to simply be in the moment, to experience what was happening without overthinking it. As the project progressed, Ava continued to thrive. She worked hard, but it didn't feel like work anymore. She was building something that mattered, something that would not only change her life, but potentially change the way Straton Industries approached creativity and business. She had found her purpose, and with it, a new sense of fulfillment. Ethan's support had given her the confidence to take that leap, but it was her own strength that had carried her through. And in the process, Ava realized that success, love, and balance were all within her reach, not as separate things, but as one beautiful, intertwined path. As the weeks went by, Ava's project began to take shape. Her efforts were paying off, and the collaboration with Ethan was proving to be a turning point in her career. The balance she had been striving for was finally starting to feel real. She wasn't just working long hours, checking off tasks to meet deadlines. She was genuinely engaged, combining her creativity and business sense to build something meaningful. But with success came new challenges. As the project grew, so did the pressure. Ava found herself grappling with the expectations that came with being a key player in something so important. The project was no longer just about her passion. It was now tied to the future of Straton Industries, and everyone was watching. She could feel the weight of their gazes, the subtle whispers of expectation that followed her wherever she went. Every meeting, every decision, felt like it carried more weight than the last. It wasn't long before the stress began to take a toll. Ava found herself working late into the night, staying at the office long after everyone else had left. Her once peaceful evenings, spent with her sketchbook and a cup of tea, were now replaced with spreadsheets and presentations. The balance she had fought so hard to find was slipping through her fingers. One evening, after yet another long day, Ava sat at her desk, rubbing her eyes, trying to focus on the latest round of data. Her phone buzzed on the desk, a message from Ethan. "Meet me at the cafe downstairs. We need to talk." Ava glanced at the clock. It was already past 9 p.m. She wasn't sure what this conversation would be about, but the idea of stepping away from the office, even for a little while, sounded like a welcome escape. She quickly grabbed her bag and headed downstairs. The cafe was nearly empty. The soft hum of the espresso machine and the faint clink of cups, the only sounds in the quiet space. Ethan was sitting at a corner table, his usual composed demeanor a little more relaxed. He looked up as Ava approached, offering her a small smile. "Hey," he said, motioning for her to sit down. "I thought we could talk. You've been working nonstop lately, and I think it's time to check in." Ava sat down, the weight of the day still heavy on her shoulders. "I'm fine," she replied, trying to sound casual, but Ethan raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "You don't look fine, Ava. You've been running yourself into the ground. I can see it in your eyes. The project's important, yes, but not at the cost of your health or happiness." His words hit her harder than she expected. She had been so focused on the project, so determined to prove herself, that she hadn't realized how much she had been pushing herself. "I didn't mean to," she said quietly, her voice betraying the exhaustion she had been hiding. "It's just, I don't know how to stop. Every time I take a break, I feel like I'm falling behind." Ethan leaned forward, his tone gentle but firm. "Ava, this isn't a race. It's a journey, and it's okay to pause along the way. You've been doing incredible work, but you can't give everything to a project and leave nothing for yourself." Ava felt a lump form in her throat. She had always believed that if she worked hard enough, if she gave everything she had, it would be enough. But now, she wasn't so sure. "I don't know how to stop," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "You don't have to do it alone. We're in this together. But you have to take care of yourself first. If you burn out, the work won't matter. The people around you won't matter." Ava looked at him, his hand warm against hers, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of relief. She had been so focused on proving herself, on proving she could handle it all, that she had forgotten what mattered most: her own well-being, her own peace of mind. "I'm scared," she confessed, the vulnerability in her voice surprising even her. "I'm scared that if I stop, I'll fail." Ethan squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Taking a step back doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're taking control of your own life. You're learning that there's more to success than just work. There's balance, there's love, and there's joy in the small moments." Ava nodded, tears welling up in her eyes as she realized just how much she had been holding in. "I've been so focused on the future," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I forgot to live in the present." Ethan smiled, his expression softening. "The present is where life happens, Ava. Not in the past or the future, but right here, right now." As they sat there, talking in the quiet cafe, Ava felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She didn't have all the answers, and the journey ahead wasn't going to be easy. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was finally on the right path. The next day, Ava made a decision. She would still give her best to the project, but she would also make time for herself. She would not let her ambitions consume her. She would learn to find balance, to live in the moment, and to embrace the things that truly brought her joy. And with Ethan's support, she knew she could do it. The road ahead wasn't clear, but Ava felt more ready than ever to face it with courage, with balance, and with a heart open to whatever the future might hold. As the days passed, Ava's commitment to finding balance began to shape her life in ways she hadn't expected. The project with Ethan was progressing beautifully, and she felt more fulfilled than ever. But this time, it was different. She was no longer sacrificing her personal time for the sake of work. Instead, she was learning how to integrate both. She started waking up earlier, taking a few moments for herself, before diving into the rush of emails and meetings. She would take long walks in the park, letting the fresh air clear her mind, and even spend weekends exploring art galleries, something she hadn't done in years. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. One evening, after a particularly productive day, Ethan invited her to a private art show he was hosting. It was a small, intimate event, showcasing local artists, something Ava hadn't expected from him. As she arrived at the venue, she was struck by the contrast between the high-powered businessman she knew and the thoughtful, creative man standing in front of her. Ethan greeted her with his usual warm smile, but there was something different about him tonight. He was more relaxed, more at ease. "I'm glad you made it," he said, guiding her inside. "I thought you'd enjoy this. It's important to me that we celebrate creativity, not just in our work, but in life." Ava felt a warmth spread through her chest as she looked around at the artwork. It wasn't just about business for Ethan. It was about creating something beautiful, something that made people feel. The atmosphere was calming, filled with the soft hum of conversations and the occasional clink of glasses. Ava wandered through the gallery, taking in the pieces, feeling inspired by the vibrant colors and the raw emotion behind each one. She found herself lost in the work of one artist in particular, a painting of a woman standing in a field of flowers, her arms stretched wide, embracing the world around her. It was beautiful, and Ava felt a connection to it. "This one speaks to me," she said softly, as Ethan appeared by her side. He followed her gaze and smiled. "I knew you'd like that one. It's about finding freedom, about letting go of what holds you back." Ava turned to him, her heart suddenly racing. "It's amazing," she said, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan nodded. "It's about breaking free from the expectations we place on ourselves and others to live fully in the moment." Ava felt a deep connection to his words. For so long, she had been chasing success, not realizing how much she had been holding herself back. She had been afraid to truly live, to step away from the pressure, and embrace something more. As the evening continued, they talked about art, about life, and about the future. Ava realized how much she had grown over the past few months. She wasn't the same person who had walked into Straton Industries, obsessed with climbing the ladder. Now, she was someone who knew the value of balance, of finding joy in the process, not just the destination. As the night wound down, Ethan led her to a quiet corner of the gallery, away from the crowd. "I'm proud of what you've accomplished, Ava," he said, his voice sincere. "You've found something that I've been searching for myself." Ava looked at him, surprised. "What do you mean?" Ethan's gaze softened as he took a step closer. "I've spent so much of my life focused on work, on building an empire. But I've realized that true success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about who you are in the process. And I see that in you." Ava felt a lump in her throat. She hadn't expected to hear him speak so openly about his own struggles. But it made sense. Ethan had always been the powerful, successful CEO. But now she saw him as someone who was learning, just like her, how to balance the pursuit of success with the pursuit of happiness. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet but filled with emotion. "That means a lot to me." Ethan smiled, a genuine, warm smile that made Ava's heart flutter. "You've taught me something too," he said softly. "Sometimes it takes stepping back to see what truly matters." As the evening came to a close, Ava felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She had come to realize that success wasn't just about the next big project or promotion. It was about the journey, the connections, and the joy that came with doing what she loved. As she left the gallery, she felt grateful for the chance to work with Ethan, but even more grateful for the lessons he had taught her about life, about love, and about the power of balance. The future was still uncertain, but Ava felt ready for whatever came next. She wasn't just chasing power anymore. She was embracing the life she had always dreamed of, one filled with purpose, creativity, and most importantly, love. Months passed, and the changes in Ava's life became even more profound. The balance she had worked so hard to find was no longer just a distant goal. It was her reality. She had grown not only as a professional, but as a person, and her journey had taken her to places she never imagined. The project with Ethan had blossomed into something extraordinary, and Straton Industries was thriving because of it. But more than that, Ava had finally learned the importance of living in the moment, of finding joy outside of work, and of nurturing the relationships that truly mattered. One sunny afternoon, as Ava was heading to her office, she passed by a cafe and noticed a familiar face inside, Ethan. He was sitting at a small table by the window, looking out at the street, a warm cup of coffee in front of him. Ava felt a pull to join him, so she stepped inside and approached the table. "Mind if I join you?" she asked with a smile. Ethan looked up, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Of course," he replied, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. Ava sat down, feeling a sense of ease as they shared a comfortable silence for a moment. "It's a beautiful day," Ethan said, breaking the silence. "It is," Ava agreed, glancing out the window at the busy street. "I've been thinking a lot lately about how far we've come." Ethan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We've both come a long way," he said quietly. Ava smiled, her heart full. "I think it's safe to say that I've learned more in the past few months than I ever did chasing after success alone." Ethan's gaze softened, and he reached across the table, placing his hand gently over hers. "You've always had it in you, Ava," he said. "You just needed to believe in yourself, to trust that you didn't have to sacrifice who you are to succeed." Ava felt a lump form in her throat. His words meant more than he could possibly know. They weren't just about work. They were about her whole journey, her evolution as a person. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet, but filled with gratitude. "You've helped me see that there's more to life than just the climb." Ethan smiled, his thumb gently brushing over her hand. "And you've helped me see that success isn't just about the numbers. It's about the people you work with, the connections you make, and the moments you share along the way." Ava looked at him, her heart racing. In that moment, everything seemed to click into place. It wasn't just about the project they had worked on together or the business they had built. It was about the journey they had shared, the way they had both grown in each other's presence. "I never expected any of this," Ava said softly. "I came here thinking I needed to prove myself. But what I really needed was to learn how to live, to embrace both my ambition and my heart." Ethan's eyes shone with sincerity as he gave her a soft smile. "I think you've done that, Ava. And I think you've taught me something too." Ava felt her breath catch in her chest. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? Ethan leaned in slightly, his gaze locking with hers. "I think we both deserve more than what we've settled for in the past. More than just work, more than just power, more than just success." Ava's heart was pounding in her chest as she looked at him, her mind racing with possibilities. She had always been afraid to let herself want more, afraid that it would take her off the path she had worked so hard to build. But in that moment, she realized that what they had built together was just the beginning. "What are you saying?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's smile widened, and for the first time, Ava saw a vulnerability in him that matched her own. "I'm saying that I think I've found everything I've been looking for, right here, with you." The words hung in the air between them, and Ava's breath caught in her throat. She had never imagined that something like this could happen. That the man who had once been her boss, the person who had pushed her to find balance and pursue her passion, could also be the person who had shown her what true love could be. Ethan's hand gently cupped her face as he leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a soft, tender kiss. In that moment, all of the doubts, all of the fears, faded away. Ava realized that love, just like success, wasn't something to be chased or forced. It was something to be embraced, something that came when you least expected it, when you were open to it. As they pulled away, their foreheads resting together, Ethan whispered, "We've only just begun, Ava, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." Ava smiled, her heart full, her spirit soaring. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't focused on the next step or the next goal. She was here, in this moment, with Ethan, and that was enough. She had found balance, she had found love, and she had found herself. The journey wasn't over, but it was just the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, possibility, and the kind of love she had always dreamed of. Together, they would face whatever the future held, hand in hand.